All righty. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our first summer webinar of the 2021 Texas McCombs Summer Alumni Speaker Series. We are very excited to be joined by Beth English today. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping items to note. Everybody's lines have been placed on mute and your cameras are off. If you have any questions, they can be entered in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We'll be keeping an eye on both. And we will have a recording of this webinar available next week on the Alumni News blog. Our speaker today is Beth English, who is a speaker and artist whose mission is to make people connect. She brings her experience with trauma, recovery, art, and community leadership to help change how people feel. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn things over to Beth.
Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here today, and we're going to be real chatty in the chat box. So I hope that you have your chat box open, you're ready to kind of engage with me today, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you guys this morning and just kind of give you a proper introduction as to what it is that I do and how I serve my clients. All right, I think everyone can see this now. Perfect. Okay, so hello and welcome to the first Summer Speaker Series event live from my log cabin studio in Nashville, Tennessee. I am Beth English, and we are just going to wait a little bit longer while we let people into the webinar this morning. And we're going to have a blast today, just diving into the creative mind. So before we begin, tell me in the chat, where are you tuning in today? I would love to see where you're watching from. I know probably many of you are in Texas, so I can't wait to see that. And I'm actually in Nashville, Tennessee again. Okay, we've got Winston in Houston, Texas, Mark's in Dallas, Janet's calling or watching from Atlanta, Austin. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. Grant's from Houston as well. So this is going to be a wonderful time together with all of you. And I'm just so excited. Oh, we've got someone from Colorado too. Awesome. Well, you guys, thanks for coming again. And I just wanted to know too, why are you here today? Why did you carve out this hour of your time to come and hang out with us? What are you hoping to learn? Are you working in a creative field? Are you in leadership at your office? Why is it that you decided to come today? I would love to hear about why this topic resonates with you. So just pop in the chat real quick why you decided to come and listen in. I'd love to hear what you have to say. All right. As those chats start coming in, I'm just going to keep going. But today I'm going to talk about how to lead for creative performance with emotional wellness. We're going to learn how to create insight on purpose using a system that I designed, and I'm going to share with you. I'm going to share that with you today. I discovered this system in a very unique way, and I'm going to tell you all about it in a minute. But first, I just want to properly introduce myself. I am Beth English. My artist name is Binglish, and I have been an artist in Nashville, Tennessee since about 2007. And so I graduated from UT in 2005, and so I just immediately jumped into being an artist because that's where my heart was. But I would love to share with you more about what I do. So yes, I am an artist. That means I'm a painter, photographer, writer. I'm a comic storyteller, musician. I've done all of these things on stage, and I have sold artwork internationally, hosted multiple gallery and private events. I've been featured on multiple nationally syndicated television shows, currently have multiple mural and public art installations in Nashville. But one of the most significant contributions to the community that I have done has been founding and directing the Nashville Creative Group, a nearly 10,000 member group of both online and in-person meetups for creatives in Tennessee. So since 2012, this group has inspired an artistic renaissance in the area, and while simultaneously providing a safe haven for community expression and connection, it has also provided a model for other cities in bringing in renewed artistic expression for their city and support for their creative class. This year, I'm expanding the community internationally, and we'll start connecting with artists all over the world. But see, just because I'm a painter doesn't mean that I don't do other things as well, because all of my work is connected. My work as a painter informs my work as a community leader and speaker. This also informs my work as a coach and a course creator. And I teach this because the ideas that I teach transform my life. Okay, practicing the process of creativity healed me from brain trauma, and it allowed me to access a life that feels fully alive. See, when I was younger, I developed PTSD from ongoing abuse throughout my childhood, and it severely impacted me as an adult. I really had no other answer but to seek healing. So everything I talk about today, I learned from my journey to heal and from leading a community of thousands of artists. But I couldn't have done this without my experience in business school. At McCombs, I learned how to be professional, and that education has defined my entire career. I think it's interesting that I went from a business school background into a fine arts career, because that doesn't always happen, right? And so I look back quite often and ask myself, well, what did I take away from business school that has helped me the most? And it has been that I know how to develop and implement ideas so that I can leave this world a better place and share what I know about surviving it. So I'm so thankful to be here today. It means a lot to me to share this time with you. So let's get going into talking about what we're going to do today. Okay, so in order to be creative, we have to be open. And if we want to be creative all the time, live a creative life, we have to live from a place of openness. So how do you do that? Well, I like to get back to the basis, okay? So this means that this time, I want you to truly honor yourself in a way that maybe you haven't been showing up for you enough, and that you deserve it. And that's why I'm here today. I'm here to support you on this process of connecting within. So I want you to give yourself permission to show up fully. Put your phone on silent, sit back, relax, put your feet firmly on the floor, take a deep breath, and prepare yourself to receive the insight that you are looking for, and trust the process, because you already have everything that you need. So let's open up and allow ourselves to receive this experience today. First, we're going to share some stories. This is how we connect. I'm going to share mine, and then when I ask questions, please share yours in the chat, and hopefully I'll be able to see more about what it is that's on your mind. And I want you to know that your voice is welcome here, and I definitely would love to hear from you. So we're going to talk about emotions, how to honor them, release them, rewrite them. We're also going to create connections, mostly within yourself and hopefully with others. I want you to notice how this information resonates with you in the community that we're sharing in the space here today. So notice what other people are saying as well, because sometimes that helps us inform how we're feeling too. If you have questions, leave them in the Q&A section. We'll answer those at the end of the talk. So let's practice showing up in the chat today, all right? All right, yes or no in the chat, tell me, how many of you would say that you are creative? I just want to know, because I feel like a lot of you are. Yes? Max says yes. Mark says yes. Megan, yes, 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 yes. No? Grant says no. Okay, well, Grant, I just want to let you know that we are all creative, okay? Even if you don't feel like you are, there are ways of developing it. Just like we develop our muscles when we work out, we can develop our creativity, and it can be a lot of fun. How many of you would say that you're a leader? Yes or no? No? Yes? All right. We've got lots of great answers coming in the chat. And I'm so excited that a lot of you are resonating with being a leader. And so I'm so glad that you're here today to learn more about how we can lead in a way to help our creative performance at work using emotional wellness. So what I'm going to do today is reveal that everyone has the potential to be creative and a leader. I don't want you to spend another day believing the story that it's too hard or you're not good enough or your ideas don't matter. Being a creative leader directly correlates with how you connect with yourself and the world around you. But in order for this to happen, though, you're going to have to trust me. And so do you trust me? In the chat, say trust. I really need your trust today, because when we're talking about emotions and we're opening ourselves up, that can be vulnerable. And so it's really important that we have that trust together. And then today is especially unique because we're going through a brand new webinar featuring my best work over the last decade. And I'm so excited to present this to you. You'll see a lot of photos of me in action. I've been advocating for creativity for over 10 years. This is my zone of genius, my love, my purpose. You are safe with me. So make sure you stay all the way to the end, because that's where you're going to hear how to implement today's topics into your everyday life. So are you ready? Say ready in the chat, and we're going to get going. All right, ready. So how do you access creativity? This is the question of the hour. What is creativity? How do we get it? How do we make more of it? How can we maximize it? And how does it relate to emotional intelligence? Someone in the chat earlier said, I'm a creative leader, and thinking about connecting that with emotional wellness seems powerful. And it is. Connecting your creativity with your emotions is what artists do. Artists share their hearts and their thoughts, and they express it in unique ways, whether that's through painting or through writing. And so emotions are at the forefront of creativity. So emotional intelligence, though, is tending to social needs like communication and empathy. Creative intelligence is task-related needs like getting into the body, noticing, wondering, and connecting. And all of this combined, I believe that creating openness is the answer. So I want you to notice in this picture, okay? This was at the beginning of a workshop I hosted. Look at some of the body language. We've got some crossed arms. We've got some slouching. Some of them are shutting down and closing off their energy. This is what we do in environments when we're feeling nervous or we don't feel like our voice is important enough to be heard. So my solution is to open that up. So right now, I want you to notice your energy right now. Okay, how's your posture? How's your shoulders? Is your chest pointed up and out, or is it slouched down? We need to open up our chest, sit up straight, adjust yourself in the chair, be mindful of your body as we go through this experience. Because when we shift into openness, we're going to have to start by using our bodies first, okay? So first thing today is we're going to go deep within. Creativity is problem solving, and problems are the result of disconnection. So problem solving is the result of connection. So first we have to go deep within and then find the blocks and repair them so that we can create openness and flow. This is how, on purpose, we can open up the door to your creative mind. Now, oftentimes these blocks are formed by traumatic experience, whether in childhood or adulthood, but also experiences like divorce or death in the family or other big transitions can also leave an imprint on your body. And the only way to release this imprint or even just lessen its intensity is to approach it with a safe space. So for example, in this photograph, we are centering inward. We are getting still, practicing breathing exercises and visualization. We're focusing on what we want to project and discover in order to position ourselves to receive answers in the form of creative thought. Creative energy is energy that can be transferred from person to person. So I act as a support and guide for that energy exchange, and it's quite beautiful. So I would love to invite you to notice your own energy today and feel a sense of relaxation and peace within while you learn how to open yourself up into a state of flow. Remember, this is a safe space today with the intention for you to move through my process in the most gentle way possible. Have you ever heard of someone say, oh, they have their wall up? What do you think that means? We all have heard it before. We've all felt it before. We can feel when someone has their wall up because energetically they have shut themselves off to connect. Right? And this is what we're trying to do today is reverse that. So if we think about our creativity hitting a wall, how are we going to take this wall down? So I love this analogy. If you think about a brick wall, imagine your experiences that you've gone through in life are the bricks, okay? So every single little brick is an experience that you've had. And the mortar are the stories that hold the bricks together. So if you want to take a wall down, if you want to remove the bricks, we have to first remove the mortar around the bricks. And the way we do this is by understanding our story. By understanding our story, the one we tell ourselves every day, whether it's true or not, and for most people, we are way harsh on ourselves, this is how we can consistently show up with openness. And many times, we have to learn how to reframe these stories in a way that gives them a voice that they need to be heard. It gives them the love they need to be accepted and the grace they need to be released. So when we want to connect with ourselves at this level, then we need to be able to connect with others with ideas and thoughts at a much deeper level as well. And when we learn to rewrite our story, we can create an environment for joy. We start to make connections between our head and our heart. We start to notice how creating our stories are happening slowly in every moment. And we know that the condition of our inner environment impacts our outer environment. And often when we start down this path, we learn more about ourselves and connect to our inner fire. And the fastest way to update our beliefs is to shift our perspective, to create a perspective that releases the type of chemistry your body needs to be open. So what I do is I work with individuals and groups to release the chemistry of their chosen perception and ultimately create a new path. This is regulating your emotions. Being able to do that on purpose in the moment is a sign of emotional intelligence. So how do I do this? Well, let me explain. All right. What's the number one thing blocking you from your creativity? Because I'm going to take you through a path to undo and release these blocks that you're feeling right now. We're just going to get started and do it right away. We're not going to wait till later. We're going to think about this right now. What is something that's blocking your creativity? In the chat, why don't you tell me what that one thing is? And when we realize what that one thing is, there may be other things that come up as well. But sometimes there's this one thing we know, we don't even have to ask ourselves that question for too long and something already comes up. Yeah. Too many things going on, fatigue, multitasking, stress. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is exactly what happens. The fear of change, right? And how does this feel? If we can name that emotion, maybe it feels like disappointment, or it feels like sadness, or anger, or fear. Can you name that emotion? And then once you do that, think about what's the earliest memory of that emotion, because the two may be linked. If you feel comfortable, please share your story in the chat. I would love to hear what it is that is coming up for you right now. Fear is the number one reason that I have learned after all of these years of working with artists that holds them back. And that fear could come from so many different places in our childhood, right? What if you drew a picture in kindergarten and you were so proud of it, but your teacher said something like, well, you know, a duck's not supposed to be that color, or you drew that wrong. And then all of a sudden, this thing that you felt really proud of immediately gets associated with something you did wrong. And then you carry that story with yourself your entire life. And then when you're an adult, you think, I'm not creative. Because when you think about being creative, you shut down because it's linked with an experience and a story that really isn't true anymore, or someone's voice that shouldn't have taken such a big part in your life. So it's our job to dive in and discover what these blocks are so that we can rewrite these stories. So we're going to do that a little bit later. We're going to work on rewriting these stories. But first, I want to tell you this really funny story because it has a lot to do with business school. So I became a speaker because I love facilitating. My keynotes and workshops are really interactive because that's pretty much what I know. I didn't tell you this earlier, but I went to college to study finance. I liked math, but when I started my classes in finance, I knew that it was not for me. So very first semester, freshman year, I made an appointment with the career counselor at Jester dorms because I was lost. And he asked me one simple question: what do you want to do? And I don't know if I had ever asked myself that question. I had only asked myself, what was I supposed to do? Which now looking back is extremely limiting. So anyways, I tell the career counselor very confidently, I want to be a scuba instructor. And he looked at me like, what? I said, when I was 16, I went scuba diving in Mexico, and it was the most incredible experience. And I want to lead groups of divers around the ocean, ride on boats, and live on the beach. And that's when I decided I'd become a scuba instructor and move to the beach. I did stay in business school, but I changed my degree to marketing. So freshman year, I signed up for an advanced scuba class, and then slowly but surely, I completed 7 more certifications. By the time I was a senior, I was employed by the university teaching scuba diving in the swim center. And I would walk back and forth between the swim center and the business school all the time between classes and my job. And I used to work with this instructor named Jack. And every time the students got into the water, they all naturally clung to the edge of the pool. And he always said, let go of the side of the pool. There are no sides to the ocean. Just true. There are no sides to the ocean. The only thing you can do is let go and float. So how many of you are holding on to something you need to let go of? How much better would it feel if you could just float? And how would that change how you feel and ultimately the outcome of the life that you want? Ultimately, I did move to the beach and teach scuba diving. I lived in the Bahamas and in the Virgin Islands for a year. And what if I had never asked myself what I wanted to do? I think we do that a lot. Sometimes we don't ask ourselves that question. And what do we actually want? And are we willing to do whatever it takes to get there? The fire behind the desire has to be there. And it's that energy that drives ideas forward. It's that energy of creation. How does that make you feel, the energy of creation? Because creating is a risk. And sometimes that risk triggers stress. I mean, just looking back at the chat of what you all shared with me, feeling stress and fear, creating something new is risky. Sometimes the new things trigger something old. Many people live in a state of anxiety, and that shuts down creativity. Learning how to relax under stress and regulate our emotions is essential for learning how to access our very best ideas. Okay, so I have a framework for you. I'm very proud of this. This is a framework that I developed to regulate my own emotions. And this is what I teach my clients, and we work through how to show up for ourselves and work through these steps that are so simple and so easy, but it's a matter of being prepared and being ready to go through this process when anything comes up. So why do we think we need an emotional regulation framework? Because when you're triggered, something or someone has connected your emotions in your conscious or unconscious thoughts that brought up negative feelings. I'm sure everyone here knows exactly how that feels. Something out of the blue happens, our emotions are triggered, and we don't necessarily know how to handle it. So it's important to be prepared because our body in that state releases hormones during stress that causes the brain to stop functioning. You wonder why you can't speak your words or explain what's going on because part of your brain has shut down. And sometimes we're caught off guard and it happens so fast that We react instead of respond and maybe say things we don't mean. And ultimately, when we don't know how to regulate our emotions, that could cause us to break down trust with the people around us. And we don't know when this will happen. It could be at home or at work, but it's important to understand this because even though triggers happen in the moment, their impact can last much longer. And studies have shown that a little stress isn't bad for creativity, but that's not what we're talking about here today. I'm talking about the anxiety that blocks creativity. And everyone this year has been through a lot. And so the anxiety is high, the stress is high, the fear is high. And when those things are active, creativity isn't as easily accessible. So hopefully this emotional regulation framework will teach you how to access your creativity even when there's things going on that could be blocking it. So creativity isn't productive when we're flooded with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. But what if we were able to do the opposite? What if we were able to create emotions on purpose to drive our thinking in new directions towards higher levels of creativity? Being able to regulate our emotions on purpose in the moment is something that is such a powerful skill. So I'm going to guide you toward a solution to do this for yourself. So we're going to go through each step real quick here on this slide, and then I'm going to take you through each one more in depth, okay? So it's called Take a Beat, which means just stop, take a moment, and breathe. Because when you take a deep breath in, your heart rate quickens slightly, and as you exhale, your heart rate slows. Repeated deep breaths will naturally bring your heart rate more in sync with your breath. And this leads your brain to release endorphins, which are chemicals that have a natural calming effect. So the first thing we always need to do is breathe. That is the foundation. Then the next thing is your energy. It's important to check in with it. Have you ever heard of the acronym HALT? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired? Something some of us may have heard before, but that's a perfect example of how to understand what you need to support your energy. Maybe you skipped lunch and you're not as, quick with your ideas. It's because you just need to eat. Maybe you didn't sleep the night before because something's going on at home. There's so many different things that could be going on in our lives that are separate from our creative work, but impact our creative work. So we need to learn how to support our energy so that we're able to show up for ourselves fully. The next step is ask. In the moment, while we're breathing and calming ourselves back to a natural state of peace and calm, we can ask ourselves questions like, what's actually going on? What is true? What is not true? What do I need? What's the next best step I can take? Asking questions turns on your curiosity and disables confusion. And then the last step is talking. Release what happened to you in the form of expression just through simply talking. How did you feel? What happened? What was your process for coming out of it? We have to complete the cycle so the trigger can be and the emotion can be released. Now we're going to go through each of these, and my hope is that you'll experience a new level of calm and understanding, reducing confusion and creating clarity, connection, and feeling like your creativity is turned on. All right, so let's breathe. If you will, just put your feet flat on the ground and just kind of stand up in your chair a little bit and just take a deep breath with me. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. Remember, we're naturally calming ourselves. Drop your shoulders. Inhale again, expanding your ribs out to the sides of your body, and exhale. Relax your eyes, drop your jaw, wiggle your jaw around, and inhale again, and exhale. There are all sorts of ways that we can get into the breath. We just need to start taking long, slow, deep breaths. We can count the inhale and count the exhale. A 4-sided breath is actually breathing in for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, exhaling for 4 counts, and holding for 4 counts again, and then the cycle continues. So let's just do that. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. hold, 2, 3, 4, exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. You're going to learn some breathing exercises today because you're going to need them, I'm sure. Anytime we feel like we need to get into our breath, it's good to have a plan, to have something prepared for us to do, to know how to breathe instead of just figuring it out as we go. It's important to know when you need to self-soothe with the breath. You can practice breathing, sitting still, doing yoga, running, dancing, whatever you like. My point is, creativity doesn't flow out of someone who is too busy, worried, overambitious, or lethargic. Balanced activity and rest can rekindle skills and creativity in you. If we maintain this every day, then we will see a whole new dimension of life open up. So just one more deep breath in and exhale. Let me hear it. Next, we're going to check in with our energy. Okay, so I have this exercise that I do with my clients, and you can do it at home or at work, wherever you are, sitting or standing. Just firmly put your feet on the ground, and we're going to start clapping. Okay, I like to clap because what it does is it sort of breaks up the energy around me. So I want you to notice when you start clapping, when you hit your palms together, how that feels in front of your chest, and when you slap your fingers together, what that feels like. So you're going to just hear me clapping, and I'm just clapping right in front of my chest. And I'm going to work my hands up to my forehead, and I'm just going to notice how it feels when my palms and my hands, what that feels like in front of me. Now I'm going to work my hands all the way down to my body as low as I can go. And I'm just going to notice what that feels like to have my hands clapping in front of my chest. And now I put my hands on my heart and I take a deep breath in. And I open up my chest a little bit further. I continue to inhale and exhale. And I open up my shoulders. And there's this feeling here, this feeling of openness that we need to be familiar with, because it's from this place that we're able to authentically express ourselves in everything that we do. And that's just one energy exercise, just clapping your hands in front of your chest to open it up. It's just something simple that we can do anywhere we are. And there's so many more. I wish I had the time to share it with you today, but taking care of your energy is how you're going to be able to take care of yourself and the people around you. And next, ask yourself, what do you need? When we ask ourselves for what we need, we're giving ourselves permission to have a voice. This is important because emotions need a voice in order to be released so they don't continue being blocks. So when we shut down emotions, stuff them, shame them, disqualify them, deny them, that's when they become a block. But asking yourself for what you need is a critical step in creating that safe space necessary for openness and creative thinking. So what do you need? You don't have to answer this in the chat, but just think about it to yourself. This could be very personal, and it could be very enlightening if we just allow ourselves to be heard without judgment and listen and learn to trust ourselves and our own voice. When you start to speak life into your body with the truths that you uncover through asking questions, then you will start to notice a difference in how you show up for yourself. Next step is talking. The last step, sometimes often the hardest, because sharing our experiences requires a lot of vulnerability. We need to talk about our experiences with someone we trust in order to release it through that expression. But this doesn't have to be complicated. It could be as simple as, hey, I thought one thing, but then this happened, and now I think another. It's a healthy practice to share because that creates connection, understanding, empathy, compassion, other types of emotions to sustain your creative thought. All right, so I took you through the 4 steps. Now you know how to take a beat, how to work through and regulate your emotions simply by showing up for yourself, giving yourself a voice, asking yourself really great questions, and then talking about it. But how do we change long term? I love this quote by Lynn. Healing is practical and casual, moment by moment, day by day. This is how we change. How do we live like this? You must be willing to connect, and you must be willing to be consistent, trusting the process and showing up with vulnerability. The outcome will be a lifetime implementing these strategies, and it's a proven process that you can use again and again. And when you apply this to leadership, it simply is a partnership, a collaboration with people. And the more trust you create, the better your outcomes will be. So, how do we change? We have to be all in. What's your side of the ocean that you're trying to grasp? What are you hanging on to? Old stories, perhaps, excuses or blame? Remember, we have to be dedicated to changing with commitment. So that means to be all in. But we have to know the difference between being and doing. That's key. Most of us are doers, but that's output. We need input. Everything in life is a cycle, from the moon to the seasons. Supporting our efforts in being will strengthen our doing. And when that's achieved, your intuition will get stronger because you've given yourself a space for it to come in. And when you spend time creating the space for it, your intuition can be your guide and everything will feel so much easier. So to be all in, we have to adopt these mindsets of being a lifelong learner. Learning is growing, something we'll do for the rest of our lives. We have to be open to receiving new information. And like I said earlier, being versus doing, getting really familiar with the two because it's a balance. And they both have a purpose to further your growth. And also listening to your intuition because it wants to have a voice. It acts as a guide. And if you follow it, you will gain clarity and open space up for creative thought. You also are what you say. Words are so important. You are what you do. We're creating every moment of our life in every moment. Most people say, I'm not creative. And I say, you're right. If you say you aren't, then you'll never be. It can really be that simple. The only thing holding you back right now from whatever it is that you're seeking is the belief in yourself. Your words and actions must align with whatever you're seeking. And if they don't, then you're confusing the direction of your growth. And I want everyone to ask yourself today, what do I want? Whatever comes up, just know that it's meaningful because words are powerful and they all start with your thoughts. So every day we can renew our minds. We can use visualization. We can do things to help meet our needs. We can learn how to get into our body, use our words, and embrace the creative cycle. These are all powerful actions that we can do in order to support ourselves in our creative life. And I would love to get into these today. We just don't have a lot of time, but each one is powerful. So if one really speaks to you, make sure that you write that down in your notes and that you focus on bringing more of that into your life. And the last step, how do we change? Don't do it alone. The best way for change to happen is when you do it in a community. Community is your support system. It is the thing that creates trust. And we know everything needs a support system, otherwise it falls apart. Community helps you increase that frequency of connections that lead you to the next thing, and all that sharing and collaborating is how we can really make way for the things that we want to create. It's always better to do things together. Can you think of a time when community really impacted you? Make a mental note of that experience and remember that when you're building community in your business or in your employee culture. Community is powerful. So just to recap, make sure that you're all in. You realize how powerful your words are and what you say. And also, don't do it alone. All right, let's get back into the chat. I want you to just notice one thing that you connected with today. Maybe it was that one thing that you needed to hear the most. And I want you to start your sentence in the chat. I noticed that. And tell us what you noticed and why you liked it. And it may be something that someone else noticed as well. And so they'll be glad to hear that something that has come up for you has been really powerful. Because it's when we're noticing, it's when we're wondering and are curious, that's when we're able to connect more deeply with our creativity. Yeah, Megan says that she noticed that being busy is a big block for her. And sometimes we are too busy and we have to think about, well, what's everything going on in my life right now? And how do I take some things off my plate? Or how do I adjust my life in a way that's going to create more space to support the things that I actually need? And when we commit to that and we actually go through the process of creating that change, we're going to realize that we can create anything in our life that we want more of. So it's really powerful. So let me ask you a question. Would you like to learn more about how to implement these strategies? Because I work with visionary brands and people, and together we create dynamic projects and campaigns. I love working with groups for special projects and events. It is so much fun to create connection and foster creativity in the workplace. And I've worked with a transit authority and did a city bus campaign. We worked with a new bank in establishing their creative brand, and multiple other clients to create connections with special employee events. But I also do group coaching. I have a self-study course and a weekly virtual call that leads my clients through a process to get unstuck and in touch with their creative edge. So if you're interested in learning more about that, just go to my website, bethenglish.com/apply, and you can sign up for my wait list for when I launch my next group program. And I'll drop a link in the comments when we get into the Q&A section, and I'll be reaching out to you personally and getting clear on some of your challenges. But I just want to let you know that I love my partners. I love the people I work with. We've become friends on this journey, and you can just say hi to a couple of my clients here. We've always have such a wonderful experience, and they absolutely have a great time, and they say the nicest things, which is really fulfilling. I speak to small audiences, to large audiences. As a keynote or a facilitator or panelist, I love hosting a crowd, and I offer a lot of value. So it's simple to customize my experience around your agenda. So if you have an idea, I would love to hear from you. We connect leaders to the power of creative thinking and put their creativity to work. And I would love to hear if you need something like this in your life. And I just want to thank you again for having me here today. We're just going to get into the chat in just a minute, and I would love to hear if you have any questions. But if you are interested in learning more about how to work with me, you can go to my website at bethenglish.com, and I would love to hear more about what's going on in your life. Again, thanks for listening today. If you've got some questions, I would love to start getting chatty with you. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen right now. And hi everyone. I am so excited to be back on the screen. Everyone can hear me and see me? Lynn, are you there?
Yeah, I am right here. I can see and hear you. For everyone who's still with us, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and pop them into the chat or put them in the Q&A box. We have plenty of time for questions.
Yeah, I was looking at the clock and I kind of cruised through some of the last stuff because I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time for Q&A. Just kind of going back through the chat box and seeing relaxation through breathing is powerful. Committing to working better as a team is hard, but results are better. Bobby, thank you for sharing that. Yes, it is important that we learn how to regulate our emotions. And not everyone knows how to do that because it's not something that we're taught. I only learned how to do this at the level that I've learned how to do it simply because I was, have panic disorder. And so I have to really know how to regulate these emotions of mine because they were wired in a really weird way. And now as an adult, I feel like I have total control over what I'm thinking and feeling, even when it's hard. These are really important. All right. Maybe you can go back over the slide with the 6 things: renew your mind, use visualization, meet your needs. Okay, Dave, we can do that. All right. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can get back into that. Share my screen. My PowerPoint. I think that looks right. All righty. Let's see. I'm going to just go back and get back to that screen. Whoops. Thank you for your patience. All righty. We're going to go back to that screen. Thanks, Dave, for your question. All right. All right, here we are. Okay. Renewing your mind daily. The mind is powerful. We know this. Our thoughts become our reality. And we have to commit to this every morning and throughout the day to check in with yourself and ask yourself these questions like, how do I feel? How do I want to feel? What do I need to do to get there? And then focus on what you know to be true, and then affirm those thoughts, and that will support your steps forward. So renewing your mind takes you just committing to renewing your mind. You can download an app, you can go to a class, you can, find a space in your home that's just for you, for just this purpose. Create the environment that you need to support this action. And this is something that we can do throughout the day, all day, renewing your mind. Just like, wait a minute, what am I thinking about? What am I doing? Those are some really good habits to start adopting. Okay, using visualization to wander into your mind, like picturing what it is that you need and visualizing it before it happens. Whether you're looking for something new or you already have an idea, visualization is a tool that will shift the focus of your mind and create a clear pathway for you. So it's wonderful to just take a moment when you've done these body exercises, when you're open and you're primed and you're ready to really dig in to what it is that your vision is telling you, and just sit and be, like I was talking about being versus doing, like sitting still and letting your mind wander and create on its own, just using visualization, maybe writing down what's coming up for you and not expecting an answer right away. I think sometimes we try to be creative or we try to visualize answers and we're expecting something immediately. And I think that is not the best approach. We have to realize that we can plant a seed for a creative thought or for an idea, and then take a step back and realize that it may come to us at a time that seems strange, or it just makes connections when we least expect it. I know for me, in my practice, I am always planting seeds. I'm always thinking about what's next, and I'm visualizing what it is I want. And then I'll go for a long walk, and then out of nowhere, ideas are coming together, because we simply just need to learn how to slow our brain down enough to really just allow for thoughts to seamlessly come together. If we're always in our head, then we're not in our body. And I think if we're thinking, we're losing out on the opportunity to feel our way through it instead of thinking our way through it. Okay, we have to learn to meet our needs. That means you are enough. Your ideas are enough. There is no award or no prize at the end of the day that sometimes will ever make you feel like you're enough. Like, we have to find that on our own. Okay. And a lot of that goes back to healing inner child wounds, reframing stories and beliefs. So yeah, meet your own needs, get into your body, and learn where certain blocks or emotions are coming from. Sometimes we can feel it. Like if we feel sadness or grief, sometimes we feel it in our heart. That's why we have a heartbreak. Like, these are things that are old. Like, you have a gut instinct, like your body has information that it wants you to know, right? And then using your words are powerful. If you say, I'm no good, or my ideas are bad, well, then you're not really creating an environment that's going to flourish for you to be better. So we have to really learn about our words and use them appropriately. And then remember the creative cycle. Being creative is output. renewing creativity is input. So we have to learn how to give ourselves the input that we need for the output as well. All right. Now I did notice a question. We have lots of questions about group classes and things like that. I would love to talk to you about that off the webinar today. And yes, you can get a copy of this Zoom presentation. So Nana, I'll just reach out to, if you want to leave your email, or I'll put my email in the chat right now. If you have questions, feel free to email me and I will get right back to you. And let's see, Mark, I thought my reactions had to do with being 64, but now I think I need to practice these techniques. Yeah. These are things that we can all practice. And let me just say, yes, I learned these on my own through trauma recovery and learning how to heal and all of that stuff, and studying the brain and studying the body and how art is used as a form of expression, and then meeting thousands of artists in my community that I lead who also are all different ages. They have all different challenges. And yet at the end of the day, it always seems like there's fear rooted in why we're maybe not, being successful personally or professionally. And so it's addressing that fear. And so I did an art project on fear. I don't know if you remember, I had a painted face in one of my slides earlier, and I did a series of face paintings because it was scary for me to put myself out there in that way. But I embraced the fear and I embraced the process. And it was a study and an exhibit in order to talk about fear and create a dialogue around it. So, and I'm so excited that we have all been able to have this time today, because my hope is that it has planted a seed in you to know that maybe there is something going on within you, deep within you, that needs to be addressed. Maybe you love being creative, but something has happened recently in your life and maybe you don't feel as creative anymore, or you feel blocked from doing the things you want to do and you don't understand why. And just want you to know it doesn't have to be like this forever. Change is possible. And this is what I love walking people through, is experiencing that change and understanding that when we wake up every morning, we have an opportunity to create the life that we want, the relationships that we want. And we just have to go within and ask ourselves what that is. And oftentimes we're taking care of other people, or our focus is on something else and it's not on us. But for us to truly be able to show up in the most powerful way in life, we have to understand what's going on within us. And that does require vulnerability, and it does feel risky, and it could feel hard, and it could feel emotional. But all that's doing is wakening up a part of you that maybe has been shut down. I think sometimes when we go through something hard, like we feel an extreme sadness or extreme grief in some way or another, we shut down our emotions because we don't want to feel that, right? Like we want to not feel the pain. But what that also does is it keeps us from feeling the joy and feeling the love in our life. And so as soon as we're able to really go into the pain, create a story around why it's meaningful to us, what it's taught us, or just to accept it, period. Oftentimes we just need to not be in denial anymore. And that could open up a space within you that could be very liberating. And so going through this process is very courageous. Many people do not do it. And if it's something that you need, I would love to help you walk through that journey. So I'm going to just put a little link in the chat. If you want to go to it, put in your email. I will reach out to you when we launch another course, and it's going to happen in the next probably month or so. So it's happening really soon. And I would love to be able to share more information with that, about that with you. Do we have any other questions? Because we've got about 5 more minutes, and I would just love to be able to answer any of your questions right now. Let's see, we've got another. Okay, thanks, Nana. I got your email address, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to reach out to you right after this call. Perfect. Well, Lynn, did you have any questions?
I personally do not have any questions. I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. So I think we are good to maybe put a lid on it, give everyone a few minutes back of their time.
Great.
So Yeah, thank you everyone so much for joining us today. I'm going to reshare my screen real quick because we do have a couple of other webinars happening this summer. The next one coming up on July 29th with Rebecca Letter, and then our final summer speaker is going to be Solu Nwanzi, date TBD in August. Very special thanks to Beth for joining us today and for speaking and sharing all of this truly valuable information. The power of breath and being creative, I think, is something that can serve all of us every day in our lives. So with that, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Beth, and hook 'em horns.
Hook 'em.